Hello, I'm Samantha Jolly. It's 4 o'clock and these are our top stories in Perth this afternoon. History in the making. Kamala Harris lays out her plan for president at the Democratic National Convention. WA Labor cuts ties with the CFMEU, one of Australia's most powerful unions, placed into administration. AUKUS maintenance, the first work on a US nuclear-powered sub here in Perth. 3 charged with a people smuggling plot off WA's north coast. And Powerball win, the lucky Brisbane mum now $100 million richer. Kamala Harris has vowed to be a president for all Americans, offering to fight for the country's future in the most important speech of her career. Today, she officially accepted her party's presidential nomination, using the moment to warn of the serious dangers of a second Trump presidency. Tim Lester has the latest from Chicago.
For would-be US President Kamala Harris, the most consequential speech of her career so far, and maybe of her life. 20, perhaps 30 million people watching on American televisions, online and streaming for a vote coming up in just 10 and a half weeks to decide the next president of the United States. Kamala Harris beginning by outlining her background.
But my mother never lost her cool. She taught us to never complain about injustice, but do something about it. Something about it. She also taught us, and never do anything half-assed. And that is a direct quote.
She spoke about her upbringing as a prosecutor in the San Francisco area. She then spoke about the difference in her background as a prosecutor to that of her rival Republican Donald Trump, and sought to draw the comparison between the prosecutor and the man facing 34 criminal charges.
I stood proudly before a judge and I said 5 words: Kamala Harris for the people. And to be clear, my entire career, I've only had one client, the people. Consider the power he will have, especially after the United States Supreme Court just ruled that he would be immune from criminal prosecution.
As Kamala Harris spoke, her rival Donald Trump watched on. He'd promised to give a social media critique of the speech live as it happened, and he spoke about what he thought of it afterwards.
It was a lot of complaining. She didn't talk about China. She didn't talk about fracking. She didn't talk about crime.
Kamala Harris made several policy pledges, but more than that, she sought to inspire Americans, to tell them that they were great, to draw the difference between her and Donald Trump, who's long criticised the current state of the United States of America.
I will be a president who unites us around our highest aspirations, a president who leads and listens, who is realistic, practical, and has common sense, and always fights for the American people.
A critical speech for the US presidential candidate. Next, there's pressure, though, for her to face questions, to do interviews or news conferences. She hasn't done any prominent ones so far. The Republicans argue that when she does, the cracks will begin to appear in the Democrat campaign.
One of the country's biggest unions, the CFMEU, has been placed into administration, effective immediately. The federal government decision follows shock allegations of criminal behaviour and means hundreds of workers are about to lose their jobs. Rochelle Brown reports.
The Attorney-General called time this morning, saying it was in the public's best interest to place the entire construction division of the CFMEU into administration, effective immediately. It means around 270 officials are expected to be axed. Among them, New South Wales State Boss Darren Greenfield and John Setker's expected successor, Derek Christopher. It follows allegations of corruption and links to criminal gangs within the union. The Albanese government pulled the trigger earlier than unexpected after new laws passed just days ago, giving them the power to intervene.
It's appropriate that we just stamp out this criminal, corrupt behaviour. I mean, we don't want members of organised crime on our building sites here in Victoria.
I think ultimately the CFMEU ought to be deregistered because I think the culture is so rotten inside the CFMEU and so toxic that there's no hope of ultimate recovery from this.
One of the ways that we're getting things done is cleaning up the building industry.
A Victorian barrister has now been appointed to take over the mass clean-up, with reports all ousted officials must hand over their cars and phones to the administrator within 7 days. Supporters are waiting to see if the union will mount a High Court challenge against the new legislation.
And Roger Cook has suspended the local branch of the CFMEU from WA Labor. The Premier says all future donations from the CFMEU will be rejected, but a recent $25,000 contribution will not be returned at this stage.
If there are any findings from the WA branch, we'll obviously need to go through those and make a decision. But at this point in time, there's been no criminal allegations from the WA branch of the CFMEU.
The state opposition has called the CFMEU's donation to WA Labor dirty money. There's been a rare win for niche living today. The troubled builder will retain its building licence for now. The company's residential construction arm was brought to a standstill last month when the state government cancelled its building registration. That decision is being reviewed by the State Administrative Tribunal. Today, it granted a stay, which means the company can continue to operate until a final decision is made. It's another blow to long-suffering customers who are hoping to access insurance payouts to finish their homes. Maintenance work is set to begin on the first US nuclear-powered submarine to be docked in Perth as part of the AUKUS partnership. Over the past year, Australian personnel have undergone special training to safely operate and maintain the subs. Defence editor Rob Scott reports from on board the USS Hawaii.
This is a historic first step on the road to Australia acquiring its own fleet of nuclear-powered submarines. A team of about 30 Australian sailors who have spent months embedded with US forces learning critical skills, now taking the lead in the maintenance of the USS Hawaii, a United States Virginia-class nuclear-powered submarine. The first time our personnel have been involved in the repair of a US nuclear submarine in Australia.
Today marks a historic moment in the strengthening of our future deterrence capability.
And a major milestone under the AUKUS agreement, growing the Royal Australian Navy's experience and expertise in preparation to own and operate our own sovereign fleet of nuclear subs.
AUKUS is real, it is happening now. It is not something that's way out in the distant future, it is happening, and we are on schedule.
This maintenance period is the first of what will be many more over the years ahead as we see regular visits to HMAS Stirling off the coast of Perth of American and British nuclear submarines. The first phase of AUKUS before we buy 3 nuclear subs from the US in the 2030s and eventually build our own with the British in the 2040s.
For us, AUKUS is one of the most strategically important partnerships in decades. It reflects that unique level of trust that exists between our 3 nations. Most importantly, the partnership is bolstering deterrence and demonstrating our long-term commitment to security and stability in the Indo-Pacific and wider.
A vital step to Australia joining an exclusive club, becoming only the 7th nation in the world to operate nuclear-powered submarines.
3 Chinese nationals accused of organising a people smuggling plot in WA earlier this year have been released on bail. Our political reporter Josh Martin has more from Parliament House.
Good afternoon. The Chinese trio could face 10 years in jail and a $300,000 fine each if they're found guilty of conspiring to conceal non-citizens. A 26-year-old man and a mother and daughter aged 54 and 32 have been arrested. They face Sydney's Downing Centre Court today and are linked to an attempted people smuggling venture from April this year, when a group of Chinese nationals travelled by boat and reached the Australian mainland near the Truscott Air Base in Western Australia's remote north. That group was caught and deported by Border Force. The arrest of the people accused of trying to help them get into the country without detection has sparked the political debate on border protection. The coalition says Labor has watered down laws and scaled back monitoring. The Albanese government says that's nonsense, and today's arrests show their plan is working.
If you want to be engaged in people smuggling, you'll be punished for it. This is a message to the people smugglers to the people who trade in human lives that if you do the wrong thing, you'll get busted.
They've sent the green light to people smugglers. People smugglers always take advantage of a weak Prime Minister. We saw it with Kevin Rudd, we saw it with Julia Gillard, we're now seeing it with Anthony Albanese.
3 boatloads of illegal arrivals have reached the Australian mainland since November last year, an issue that will continue to dominate until the next election is called, which is likely to be May next year. The Chinese trio accused of helping the illegal immigrants will face court again in October.
A Jetstar passenger has shed new light on the moment a man sparked an airport emergency in Melbourne. The witness was sitting in the exit row when the out-of-control man forced his way through the emergency exit and climbed onto the wing. He spoke exclusively to our aviation editor, Blake Johnson.
The man who ran onto the wing remains in hospital this afternoon. He's also yet to be charged, but we're learning more about those final minutes before he opened that emergency door on that Jetstar plane and sprinted out. Kyle Kenneth was seated in the exit row, the man targeted. He says he jumped out of the way as passengers and flight attendants tried to stop the man.
He was here and then the flight attendant was like pulling him back, like literally, I would say like on her heels, like she was putting everything into it.
He says it felt like a long time, but in reality, it wasn't. He got a look at the man's face as he lunged for the emergency door.
His eyes were like glossed over, like he just had that singular focus, like that's where he was going.
After running onto the wing, he slid down the side of the Airbus jet engine, its blade still spinning as the engine wound down. He was stopped by ground staff, then federal police, who arrested him.
He went for the door the first time, kind of everyone almost just kind of tapped him, was like, mate, like, what are you doing? You know, like stop, like, this isn't the way out. Every time that would happen, he would kind of pause for a second and look around him and then go straight back to the door. With one hit, he knocked the emergency panel off the lever. And then I think when he did that, everyone was a bit more on high alert, like, oh my God, like this guy's actually going to do it.
The slide and emergency door were repaired last night. The aircraft cleared to return to service first thing this morning.
This is 7's afternoon news. Coming up, balcony emergency. An everyday hero puts down his tools to pull a young child to safety. And miners unearth a monster diamond, the gem big enough to bring a smile to thousands of brides.
The 7 News app will give you the news you want every minute of every day, including breaking news alerts. Download the 7 News app now.
There's still time to sign up for this Sunday's Chevron City to Surf for Active. Register online now.
You're watching 7's 4 p.m. news live from Perth. Right now, it's a cloudy 19 degrees in the city. There's a severe weather warning in place for damaging winds tomorrow. The full weekend forecast is coming up soon. A search continues in the ocean off Sicily for an 18-year-old woman who was on a luxury yacht that sank during a storm. 5 bodies were recovered yesterday, including her father, British tech tycoon Mike Lynch.
After 4 long days, the mission to recover bodies from the wreckage of the super yacht Bacian continue. At around 9 o'clock this morning local time, the 5th body was brought back to the harbour. Since then, those same teams of divers have been searching for one woman who is still missing. Judy and Jonathan Bloomer, who was the chairman of the finance firm Morgan Stanley, were guests on board. The Bacian was hit by a storm off the coast of Sicily in the early hours of Monday morning and sunk 50 metres below the surface. Of the 22 people on board, 15, including a mother and baby, survived. 6 people had been confirmed missing. The tech multimillionaire Mike Lynch and his 18-year-old daughter Hannah, American lawyer Chris Morvillo and his wife Nida, and Judy and Jonathan Bloomer. Friends of Mike Lynch have said today that the world has lost a genius, and the charity Cancer Research UK, of which he was a supporter, has sent condolences to the family. There are still many questions about how such a modern vessel ended up on the seabed. The head of the fire service in Italy visited the scene to thank the crews involved in the recovery, but their search continues for one woman who is still missing in these waters.
The USS Abraham Lincoln has arrived in the Middle East as tensions remain high. The aircraft carrier had been ordered to the region following Iran's threat to retaliate against Israel over the killing of Hamas's political leader in Tehran. The Abraham Lincoln, equipped with F-35 fighter jets, adds to the US ships already in the region, including the USS Theodore Roosevelt aircraft carrier. A Brazilian man has been hailed a hero after he risked his life to rescue a young child dangling from a balcony in Spain. When the 29-year-old painter heard screams outside the apartment where he was working, he jumped into action. Spotting the boy on the second-storey balcony railing, he swung himself over, inching himself along the narrow ledge. Onlookers below applauded as he guided the child to safety. The second largest diamond ever found, a rough 2,492 carat stone, has been unearthed in Botswana. The diamond was found at a diamond mine in the country's northeast using X-ray technology. It is the largest diamond found in more than 100 years. Botswana is one of the world's biggest diamond producers, accounting for about 20% of global production. The diamond is large enough to make almost 2,500 engagement rings. Thousands in Kalgoorlie have been cut off once again as the Goldfields town is plunged into darkness. Here's Noel Brunning from 7 News Regional WA.
Yes, thank you, Sam. More than 16,000 homes and businesses are without power across the Goldfields and Wheatbelt. Western Power says a fault with the main supply line is causing the problems, but they're yet to identify the exact issue. The latest blackout comes 7 months after Downline severed the connection east of Perth for 11 days. Geraldton is saying bon voyage to cruise ships for now. Operators confirming with city authorities that they will not be calling in to the Midwest port for at least the next 2 years. The final vessel is due to dock in December. And recreational fishers have been left reeling as they lose on average half of their catches to sharks. Charters say the rising numbers of the predators is putting off business.
Ahead this news hour, a Perth dentist takes the stand, accused of drugging and sexually assaulting multiple women. We'll have full details from court. Plus, we all hoped it was going to be us, the lucky Australian, now $100 million richer. How she almost lost the winning ticket. That's coming up a little later this hour. Anna Hay joins us now. Anna, you have the Dockers team for Sunday.
I do, Sam. Freo has made just one change for their must-win clash against Port Adelaide. Who's in and who's out next? Plus, Carlton cops a big blow with its season on the line. And Australia's Olympic defector hits back at critics, slamming his move to Great Britain.
The 7 News app will give you the news you want when you need it. Delivered to you every minute of every day. And it's all for free, including breaking news alerts. Download the 7 News app now.
The Dockers have made just one change for their clash with Port Adelaide on Sunday. Veteran Michael Walters returns from a hamstring injury, while forward Bailey Banfield has been dropped. Banfield is among a group of just 8 Dockers to have played every game this season. Midfielder Hayden Young says he won't watch the earlier games on Sunday, which will determine if his side's finals dream is still alive.
If one of the results goes our way, I think I would like to know. But then, at the risk of it not going our way, I don't think I would. So, at the end of the day, we've just got to win. Like, if the results go our way or not, and if they don't go our way, we want to finish off the season with a win and play well. So, that's going to be the focus either way.
The game is live and free on 7 from 4 p.m. Blues star Charlie Curnow has been ruled out of his side's must-win clash against the Saints. Carlton had their final hit out without their superstar forward. He's been battling an ankle issue and, despite being named in the Blues 23, won't get up.
Oh, we'll start with the bad news. Charlie's not playing, so that's the not so great news. Yeah, we sort of thought that he might be able to pull up pretty well from some of the things that he did the other day, but hasn't pulled up as well as what we expected. So. We'll just make that call now, and obviously it gives us an opportunity to be able to lock in on what our forward mix is going to be.
Defender Adam Saad's been named, while there's doubt over Mitch McGovern. It's a pretty simple equation for the Blues. They need to beat the Saints to make finals. Crows coach Matthew Nicks has addressed the media for a second time this week after a selection storm erupted over young gun Josh Riccielli. Nicks shut down suggestions Riccielli's shocker mission was due to his showdown celebrations.
Central to that's being team first, and so yeah, Josh and I have had a number of conversations. It's not isolated to recent events This is something we've been working on for a long period of time now, not just Josh and I, but the team.
One of our main values as a club is prioritising others, and it was something that I didn't do last week and over a couple of things too. But I understand fully, and I'm just going to go at this tomorrow actually and put my best foot forward.
The Crows face the Swans in Sydney tomorrow night. Paris silver medalist Jack Robinson secured his place in the WSL finals after a dazzling display at the Fiji Pro. The West Aussies' round of 16 win over Conor O'Leary was enough to see him through to the final 5. Bronze medalist Gabriel Medina is mathematically still a chance to qualify.
Oh my! Gabe Medina! What was that?
Ethan Ewing took down fellow Aussie Ryan Callanan to stay in contention. Olympic cyclist Matt Richardson says racing for Australia always felt strange. Richardson won 2 silvers and a bronze as an Aussie in Paris before defecting to Great Britain. The 25-year-old was born in England before moving to Perth, aged 9.
All the negative comments and hate that's been getting thrown around are from people that probably don't even know what sport I play.
Okay.
You know, I can sit here and probably challenge a lot of them to tell me what a Kieran is. For me, it doesn't matter, and I've got a really big support back home.
Richardson says he wanted to race for GB since starting his international career. Aussie Ben O'Connor is now a stage winner in all 3 of cycling's Grand Tours, taking stage 6 and the leader's red jersey.
Yeah, I felt a little bit in my own world today. I felt like I could win this stage from the start, so yeah, it's pretty special when you can just go out and crush it like that. I absolutely loved every moment.
O'Connor now holds an overall lead of 4 minutes and 51 seconds. Australia's Paralympians continue arriving in the Athletes' Village 6 days before the Games begin in Paris. The swimmers are preparing in Chatra. Jasmine Greenwood won silver as a 16-year-old in the Tokyo COVID bubble. Now she can't wait to perform with a full crowd behind her in Paris.
Everyone's going to have their family here with us, and I think that's going to make a huge difference. My dad's actually never been overseas before, so in his 50 years of life, he finally gets to come and watch me swim in Paris, which is pretty special.
Greenwood will be competing in 4 individual swim events. That's all in sport, Sam. I'll have more in the news at 6. It really is a critical weekend for the Dockers. There'll be a lot of nervous fans out there.
Yeah, and the weather should clear up nicely by Sunday, so that's some good news. Thanks, Anna. We'll see you at 6. And up next on 7's afternoon news, hear from a hero. The British security guard who saved a young Australian girl from a stabbing attack on the streets of London. And the battle brewing in Glen Forest as plans for an aged care centre lose out to a church. Hello, you're watching 7's Afternoon News live from Perth. Here are some of today's top stories. Kamala Harris has accepted the Democratic Party's nomination for president at their national convention. She's warned of the extremely serious consequences of a second term for Donald Trump in the White House. WA Labor has cut ties with the CFMEU. The union has been placed into administration, effective immediately, with hundreds of workers to lose their jobs. The first maintenance work is starting on a US nuclear-powered submarine docked here in Perth as part of the AUKUS partnership. 3 Chinese nationals accused of organising a people smuggling plot in WA's remote north have been released on bail. And we've got a wet and windy Saturday on the way with a severe weather warning in place. I'll have your full weekend forecast later this hour. Returning now to our lead story, US Vice President Kamala Harris has delivered her closing speech at the Democratic National Convention, formally accepting the presidential nomination. She says it's time to unite and rewrite a new chapter for America.
We are all in this together. And every day in the courtroom, I stood proudly before a judge and I said 5 words: Kamala Harris for the people. And to be clear, my entire career, I've only had one client, the people. And so, on behalf of the people, on behalf of every American, regardless of party, race, gender, or the language your grandmother speaks. On behalf of my mother and everyone who has ever set out on their own unlikely journey, on behalf of Americans like the people I grew up with, people who work hard, chase their dreams, and look out for one another, on behalf of everyone whose story could only be written in the greatest nation on earth, I accept your nomination to be President of the United States of America. We were underestimated at practically every turn, but we never gave up because the future is always worth fighting for. The fight we are in right now, a fight for America's future. But the consequences of putting Donald Trump back in the White House are extremely serious. And we know what a second Trump term would look like. It's all laid out in Project 2025, written by his closest advisors. And its sum total is to pull our country back to the past. But America, we are not going back. We are not going to let him eliminate the Department of Education that funds our public schools. Well, instead of a Trump tax hike, we will pass a middle-class tax cut that will benefit more than 100 million Americans. And together, let us write the next great chapter in the most extraordinary story ever told.
A Perth dentist accused of drugging and raping multiple young women has taken to the stand. He argues his sexual encounters with 2 women he met on dating apps was consensual. Rachel Tassica reports.
A Perth dentist has taken the stand, accused of drugging and sexually assaulting multiple Perth women. Fazam Mehrabi is alleged to have used online dating apps to target his victims and lied about his age to organise dates. The court heard the then 31-year-old set his Tinder age to 24 because he wasn't getting many matches. He also lied about his height, saying being on Tinder, you just want to make yourself look good. Mehrabi met the women at various Perth bars before inviting them back to his parents' house in Shelley. The dentist says his sexual encounters with 2 Perth women were consensual and his intentions for casual sex were clear. Mehrabi testified he was confused when one of the women's moods changed the next morning. When he was asked, had you given her drugs without her knowledge at any time, he told the court, of course not. Fazam Mehrabi will continue his evidence.
Local residents are protesting in the suburb of Glen Forest today. Plans for an aged care centre have lost out after approval was given to a church instead. Here's Chantel Tui with the details.
I'm here in the sleepy suburb of Glen Forest in the Perth Hills where locals are angry.
Aged care matters. Aged care matters.
They claim their hopes for a much needed retirement living or aged care facility here in their town centre have been dashed. Instead, an exclusive Brethren church has been given the planning approval, the 5th of its kind in the Hills area.
Not what we thought, and so we were going to miss out on our retirement village.
They're protesting about a recent decision by a state government-appointed independent development panel to allow the church to go ahead despite more than 300 submissions against it. So do you think your voices have been heard in this case?
No. Definitely not, no.
Protesters say this is not about religion, but about what is best for the community. This is an area with an ageing population, and they say they want to stay in their suburb with their friends and community.
A lot of locals, I've been here myself 65 years, and a lot of locals would like to retire here. They know the area. We've got doctors and dentists and eye care and physio and diagnostics. We've got a massive national park across the road. It's an ideal area for aged care.
The Brethren Church wouldn't be interviewed, but in a statement said it had no issue in principle with an aged care facility, and there is still room for one on the block. It says it would be up to the landowner, but understands it's still likely to go ahead. And we'll have more on this protest tonight, 7 News at 6 o'clock.
The brave British security guard who saved the life of an Australian girl in London says she's become like a real sister to him. Abdullah came to Layla Johnson's rescue when she was stabbed in broad daylight in London's Leicester Square. Sunrise spoke to Layla and her mum Sam about the ordeal. When we showed Abdullah that interview, he was overcome with emotion.
That was my duty as a human, and if anyone is in a trouble, it's our duty to just save her. And I'm happy that I made a difference in her life. She's like my sister. I will try to be in contact with them for whole my life.
You can see more of that interview on 7 News at 6. New Vision shows the dramatic moment a light plane plunged into trees, narrowly missing a school in Western Sydney. The CCTV will be vital evidence as investigators explore what went wrong.
Good afternoon. Well, more than 24 hours on, the aircraft that fell from the sky has finally been removed from Bosley Park. This is the moment of impact. A Piper Archer losing power mid-air, forced to glide into this grove of trees, landing nose first into the ground. Pilot Kerr Yan was with a student on a lesson when it took a dangerous turn, taking off from Bankstown Airport just 6 minutes before it ended up in Tyrone Park. The Bankstown Flying School issuing a statement saying it's a credit to our experienced flying instructor for ensuring everyone was able to walk away from the aircraft. A grandmother who witnessed the crash from just metres away with an incredible account of how it happened.
Sitting here when my grandchildren noticed the plane, when I looked up, I saw the plane coming into my yard just over the power lines. And I thought, I was just sat here in shock. It was such slow motion. And then he turned to the side and made a quick dash and went straight in through the trees.
What went through your mind?
I was in shock. I was in absolute shock.
A marathon effort with many hands on deck has seen the plane be pulled apart and removed from its landing place. The wreckage will now head back to the hangar at Bankstown Airport, where a full investigation will be undertaken to determine exactly what went so horribly wrong.
There's some good news this afternoon for WA families coping with the challenges of having a sick child treated in Perth. The new Ronald McDonald House has officially opened in Crawley. Rebecca Petrolska was there for us.
Well, doors have officially opened for Ronald McDonald's third facility here in Crawley, and we've been given a first look. The charity has helped home thousands of regional families travelling to Perth for their children's medical treatment, and it's about to double its capacity with 50 new rooms opening on this new campus. It's a home away from home, giving families access to free services, furnished rooms and key facilities. The new accommodation is situated right on the doorstep of Perth Children's Hospital and King Edward Memorial Hospital, designed to make the lives of families a lot easier.
So it's not just about that initial time where they come and stay with us and have their treatment, it's those ongoing appointments year after year or month after month.
There are already 47 operational rooms at a facility in Nedlands and an additional 14 within the Perth Children's Hospital. This is officially the biggest of the two.
We expect to operate this house for up to 5 years, and during that time we're progressing our business development plan and business case for a major extension of Ronald McDonald House at QE2.
We are seeing a greater demand for our services at Perth Children's Hospital. As our population grows, that demand will obviously increase. We want to be able to provide this service for every family at their hardest possible.
We'll bring you the full tour in the news at 6, plus the impact that this home will have on WA families.
Still to come, Powerball win, the Brisbane mum who's now $100 million richer, and a giant whale rescue in Sydney Harbour. See you after the break. The chance of winning the $100 million Powerball draw was more than 134 million to 1. An incredibly lucky Brisbane mum has beaten the odds, claiming the entire mind-blowing sum. And she nearly lost the winning ticket.
Good afternoon. It's an eye-watering amount of money and it's gone to a mother from Aspley on Brisbane's north side. She purchased the winning ticket here at Nextra Chermside but forgot having done so until hearing a lucky local had claimed the entire $100 million First Division jackpot. Today, after returning from her morning run, she checked her ticket, still stashed in her car glove box, and discovered she'd won. The prize is the largest ever won in Queensland and the third biggest in Australia. Lottery officials have told 7 News the woman hadn't normally entered its draws, but just had a feeling she was going to win big this year.
She scanned that ticket online and then the waterworks came. She said that she couldn't believe it, and she also said that she was too scared to perhaps even breathe because she didn't know if it was real.
It gives us all a bit of a lift and pumps us all up again to keep going and keep serving and keep handing out winning tickets.
There was huge interest in last night's draw. It's estimated 1 in every 2 adults bought a ticket, and at one stage 8,000 were purchased in less than a minute. The winner, who unsurprisingly is choosing to remain anonymous, says she's worked hard, lived a modest life until now, and now just wants to spoil her family.
Perth 6pm News is coming up with Susanna Carr. Sue, what's on the program?
Sam will hear from devastated homeowners dealt another blow by embattled builder Niche Living. The stay from the State Administrative Tribunal that's allowing the company to keep its licence for now. Full details at 6. Also tonight, a historic speech to outline her pitch for president. Kamala Harris in the spotlight, how the former prosecutor laid out her case. Plus, the Olympic medalist labelled a traitor hits back at his critics. Hear from a WA cycling hero for the first time since his decision to defect to Team GB. Staging success when selling your home, the simple steps to help you boost the value of your property by up to 20%. And the breakthrough to help stop one of Australia's biggest killers, a new life-saving treatment for patients with heart disease. All that and more tonight, 7 News at 6. Sam.
Thank you, Sue. We'll see you then. There's been a major ocean rescue mission in Sydney Harbour today. A baby humpback whale has been cut free from nets in a dangerous and tricky operation. Lucy McLeod reports.
Good afternoon. Well, after nearly 24 hours of tracking this whale and trying to slow it down, it is now finally free, and crews behind me are still celebrating after only just cutting it free this morning. It was 1:30 yesterday afternoon when a whale watching crews first spotted the trapped mammal. Not long after, a tracker and buoys were attached to try and slow it down so crews could get close enough to cut away the fishing net wrapped around its tail.
And our technique is essentially to get in and put a control line on the entanglement. Then we put our floats on that line. We slow the whale down.
They had no luck and had to abort the mission overnight. But early this morning, vessels were back out here again with a 100-metre exclusion zone around the whale. Only a specialised team allowed close, using purpose-built tools to try and cut the rope away. After several attempts, the juvenile whale was cut free.
I feel really good, actually. Yeah. It's it was a great result after a lot of hard work that the team put in.
And it was an incredible moment to see this whale released. You could really hear the sounds and the cries of this whale every time it breached. But when it was cut free, you could see just how energetic it was as it swam away. And we will have the full details for you tonight at 6.
Yeah, that is a great outcome there. Some unlikely visitors have taken over a beach in California. Hundreds of sea lions are enjoying the sun and sand, prompting local officials to close off the area. Residents say they have never seen a group this large. It's unknown why they chose this exact beach, but the sunbaking mammals are expected to stay put for at least 3 weeks. We do have a severe weather warning in place for tomorrow. Find out when the wind and rain are set to hit, and will it be clear for Sunday's city to surf? I'll have your full forecast next.
The 7 News app will give you the news you want. Download now.
Start your day in WA with Sunrise. Sunrise reporter Tina Altieri at Kings Park.
If it's happening in Perth,
security is already very tight.
You'll be the first to know.
Nick, what's happening?
There's already a substantial number of people gathered.
Sunrise with Matt Tinney on 7. Now, Fuel Watch. Perth's petrol prices brought to you by Fuel Watch and 7 News.
Checking the weather now, we had a windy and drizzly top of 20 degrees in the city this afternoon, and it was warm last night. The overnight low was 13.5. Looking at the national forecast, a sunny top of 26 degrees in Brisbane tomorrow, possible showers in Canberra and Sydney, and a sunny 23 for Adelaide. Back to Perth, there is a severe weather warning for damaging winds as a cold front moves through in the early hours of tomorrow morning. We're expecting rain and thunderstorms as well, a top of 18 degrees. Then a lot calmer for the city to surf on Sunday. Great running conditions, good cloud cover through the day and up to 20 degrees. Some light rain set to return on Monday. Showers for Tuesday morning, which should ease through the day. Drying out Wednesday, staying cloudy with light winds, with showers looking likely again for Thursday and next Friday. And that is Perth's 4 p.m. news. I'm Samantha Jolly, and I'll be back with Sue and Anna for 7 News at 6. Thanks for joining us this Friday afternoon. The Chase Australia is next.